going to get a little bit more into it, learning a little bit about planning. If I could have someone read the objectives for this session for me very quickly.
Staff will explain broadly how CMs will build backwards planning knowledge, skills, and mindsets at institutes in orientation and in the regions. Staff will describe the criteria for a strong lesson plan by explaining what the relevant strands of the D1 and D4 rubric actions evaluate. Staff will describe how an AP and a BP lesson plan reflect those criteria at different levels of proficiency. And staff will evaluate an in-lesson plan and generate the feedback that will be most strategic in making it stronger.
Great, thank you so much. So the purpose of this session is to really build on your planning experience and then introduce the ATL rubric actions and kind of a shared language to guide core member learning, and then of course the CMA's review of lesson plans. I want to acknowledge that the literacy specialists are in the room. The reason why you're here, and I think CMA is going to be very important for you as well, is because core members get a whole lot of instruction around lesson planning. CMAs are reviewing them, providing feedback. Our curriculum specialists are instructing them on exactly how they should be creating those lesson plans. Literacy specialists, as you help to develop them in their literacy content, and then also just understanding exactly what is expected of core members, you'll have the tools in order to really give them what they need and to make sure that their literacy lesson plans are better and that they're infusing literacy in their math lesson plans as well. So here's kind of the scope of what we're going to do. I'm going to talk for another 8 minutes or so in our opening. We're going to actually look at the rubric actions. So P1 is about assessment and P3 about lesson plans. Dive a little bit into that, make sure we understand exactly what those mean. And then we'll look at the BP and AP lesson plan. And after that, talk about the lesson plan review process. What I want to just kind of underscore, highlight, shout out, put in big bold letters, we are not in this session going to be learning how to grade a lesson plan. So we're not going to talk about, here's a lesson plan, here's the rubric, score it. We're not going to be doing that. Instead, we're going to be looking at what the different qualities of a successful lesson plan looks like, and you'll get that training on how to score it, or what we call rubric norming, at a later date during all that conference too. All right. So let's talk a little bit about our theory to backwards planning. Before we get into the theory, can someone just shot in the dark? When we talk about backwards planning, what does that make you think of? What does backwards planning mean to you? What do you say about them?
Starting with the end in mind.
Great, starting with the end in mind. So there are a lot of well-intentioned teachers who go into the classroom and they are planning to teach until their heart can't teach anymore. But at the end of the day, they're going to do their students a disservice if there's no plan to it. If they don't have a goal to begin with, and then they're not working purposefully towards that goal to really guide their instruction. So what we know is that great teachers backwards plan at every single level, starting first at the lesson level, at the unit level, and at the year-long level. And then last but not least, beginning teachers need to start small. Can I actually have someone read that for me?
Beginning teachers need to start small. At Institute, we will teach our senior members how to backwards plan at the lesson level, moving toward the unit level. At orientation, we will teach our core members how to backwards plan at the unit level, moving toward the year-long level. In the regions, we will teach our core members how to backwards plan at the year-long level.
Great. So we know that backwards planning is important. We have to have some type of end in mind. I think in the IPD text it says something about you can't just get in the car and say you're going to Nebraska without having some type of plan in order to get there, knowing the roads, etc. And that's the same thing that we're saying here. It makes sense for us to start at the long-term level to say very generally, what do we want our students to be able to do, and then take that down to the unit level, then take that down to the lesson level. That is hard. I was at Institute in 2003 when we were given standards, had to break them down, and then create the unit and create the lesson. That is very, very, very hard. And what we found was that we were doing our students a disservice by asking our core members to do that. That takes a lot of skill and a lot of time. So at Institute, what we've done via the ISAC is we've pretty much done those top 2 levels for them. We've broken those standards down into objectives. We put those objectives to units, and now we're just asking them to do this at a lesson level. The whole purpose here is for them to build the skill of backwards planning. For them to understand, I need to start with the end in mind, and then I'm going to plan. and at orientation and in the readings, they're going to actually get the skill of being able to do that at different levels. All right, can someone read our fundamental truth?
New teachers must understand the idea of backwards design.
Perfect. So again, they have to know exactly where they're going. They need to know what acceptable evidence of success looks like, and then they need to actually develop a plan to get there. Ideal. Can someone read that for me?
If you plan at the year-long level before you plan at the unit level, and if you plan at the unit level before you plan at the lesson level, you can more efficiently and effectively meet your goals.
Great. So again, like backwards planning, it makes sense. Because this way we're able to prioritize. We can say, I know on a very broad level exactly what I want my students to be able to do by the end of this year, this month, etc. And so now I can prioritize. These are the things I actually want to spend most of my time doing. I can justify my choices I'm making now. I can do a little bit of wiggle, adjusting, just based on what my end goal is. So that's ideal. And then last, our reality.
It takes time to build strong vision, assessments, and plans at every level, and core members must begin teaching before they have everything in place.
Great. So again, core members at Institute are learning and executing at the same time. And so it takes a lot of time, a lot of skill for them to develop these skills, but we need to make sure as staff members that we're helping them in the interim. So we're helping them understand the long-term and unit level, but then we're actually putting the biggest force in our lesson plans. That's like the bread and butter of Institute. Tomorrow when we do our observation debrief cycle, you're going to understand exactly if the plan is not together, then pretty much nothing else matters. And we're going to learn about that tomorrow. But for this sake, we're going to just talk about the lesson planning level and what our responsibility is there. So before we do that, I actually want you to take about 5 minutes. You can turn to a partner in your table groups, and I want you to discuss, like, how is this approach to backwards planning different from how you learned backwards planning, if it is? And then what strikes you as being particularly compelling about this approach? So you have